this afternoon, and that is Dr. Timothy Cornelius. Dr. Timothy Cornelius currently serves as the Academic Vice President of Career and Workforce Education at Northwest Arkansas Community College, NWAC, in Bentonville, Arkansas. Dr. Cornelius has previously served as Dean and Interim Associate Vice President of the Business and Computer Information Division of NWAC, Business Faculty at Sam Walton Fellow, Attorney at Law, Adjunct Professor at Texas A&M University, Texarkana, and as Division Manager, Corporate Counsel, Vice President, and Controller of Pyramid Plastics. Dr. Cornelius holds a Juris Doctorate from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, a Master of Business Administration from Texas A&M University, Texarkana, and a Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting from Texas A&M University, Texarkana. Join me in welcoming Dr. Timothy Cornelius.
Well, thank you for the very kind introduction. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and I want to say to everyone who made this day possible, thank you. You've been very kind with your time, generous. I get to the hotel last night, and what do I see but an Iron Horse basket full of snacks? I mean, speak to my heart, right? Just a really great time to be with you. It's been a good day. It feels like home because it is home. And it's good to see all of you and to be in midst of COVID, getting over COVID pandemic, whatever we call our new normal now. But again, thank you all very much for just being good Southwest Arkansas folks. So, all right, I hope I know how to work this. Okay. I didn't know how this was going to turn out, but you can Google something called design fails. I know, believe it or not, we have a lot of things. So when I'm looking at this picture, what happened? Did they build the staircase first and then put the door, or did they build the doors and put the staircase wrong? So why I put this in here is think about solving a problem, or maybe just making a poor design. Poor design should really never happen, but it does. My wife kept calling that the stairway to nowhere. Well, it actually goes somewhere. It just doesn't go much. But actually, you can see more of these things on design fails. I almost put one in. It was a box of lemons that said ideal for making orange juice. Now, is that not 2020 or what? But this stairway doesn't work, so that's not innovation. So I want to the talk of my presentation is actually on a vision for UAHT's future through innovation. Innovation means a lot of things. I was telling the group earlier, I was driving down the road and saw a Tesla vehicle. I mean, they're really cool cars. It had broken down on the side of Interstate 49, and there was a Ford there that was servicing the Tesla. So anyway, a lot of innovation. Scott Anthony said he believed innovation was defined as something different that has impact. He also noted that when we start innovation process or journey, we should not just think, but we should also do. And I think about Pooh Bear, who always would say think, but you've got to have action to make innovation. A lot of times innovation remains stuck somewhere. I was reading a story about if you have a mobile phone, the glass is Gorilla Glass. Do you know how long Gorilla Glass has been around? A lot longer than the iPhones, but it's set on the shelf because no one really knew what to do with it. So innovation can occur and you can think, but you have to do something with it. For our college, Northwest Arkansas Community College, we had several of the large construction companies come to us. And what they said was, we need workers and employees who understand building, but who also understand business, some human resources, how to work in teams. You all have heard of critical thinking, soft skills. So we spent about a year developing our curriculum for the construction tech program. Well, what's interesting in how we did this was to look at what we could do to make sure that we didn't just have one subset of students. So I can tell you that in our first class we had about 25 female students. It gets a little better. And how it gets better is one of the graduates was the project manager for one of the buildings we now have on campus. Imagine one of your graduates getting to be the project manager for a building that you do. I mean, it's a lot of pride with her, so she was very, very prideful of the building. We also have about 100% placement rate and about 20 scholarships. I'm not going to read this to you, but Tim Putnam's a friend of mine. I'll leave this to your reading. Tim is in northern Iowa, a rural community college. Tim has made lemonade. He's taken the lemons and made lemonade because he's had to. Rural areas have to be innovative. What we have to do is redesign curricula to best meet the needs of students, society, and emerging workforce trends. There's a solar project coming into campus. Is renewable energy going to be around a long time? Yes. Is that something that's needed? Yes. So these decisions are made with how to meet the needs of students, society, and what's going on. I also put this is from Kisker. He says he believes we need to shift to a student-ready culture where community colleges meet students where they are, notwithstanding the assets and challenges they have along with the barriers they face. I met with students this morning, very impressed to hear about the Collegiate Academy. But as I looked at them, I thought, that was me a number of years ago. I'm a product of a community college. Now, at the time, I'm from Hope. I think I may have, my family's been in this area for a long time. Roots go back. And you all say, well, that's great, you know, and all that. But what I'm telling you is that when I started out of Hope High School, this was Red River Vocational Technical School. And the one thing I knew about me is that I'm not very good with power tools and I'm deathly afraid of electricity. I mean, those two things I know very well about me. So I drove to Texarkana College and then on to what became A&M to get my degrees. But as I looked at the students, we have a fiduciary responsibility to them, to our stakeholders, our taxpayers, and the citizens of Arkansas to make sure that they get the best quality education that we can do. Our students are important to the region, and your tagline, the bridge to the future, you realize we are the bridge to the future. We are how they are going to be able to do creativity, craft, and career. A part of this is also we need to make sure we diversify our region to be as anti-fragile as possible. Now, I want to talk a little bit about anti-fragile. I actually live in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I'm approximately 2.5 miles, my house is, from what was a Whirlpool manufacturing plant that at one time employed over 6,000 employees. That's a lot of people. There's a lot of peripheral jobs that were available. We moved to Fort Smith 13 years ago, and the plant was shutting down. There is no Fort Smith Whirlpool plant. It's gone. Train is gone. And it took a lot of businesses down with them because they couldn't survive. But being resilient Arkansans, we said, okay, we'll pivot. And so the people of Fort Smith pivoted, are starting with some new art venues, which is very important. Hytrol is coming into the old Whirlpool plant. It's really making the region more anti-fragile. So when the ups and downs hit, and we're going to have them, that we're less anti-fragile. I can remember when Hope had, and Dr. Thomas and I'm going to date myself, we called it the generator plant. They rebuilt alternators and all. Those were big employers. We had the Hope Wire products. We had a lot of major employers. Employers change over time. So we have to make sure that our economy is built as close as possible in this region on being anti-fragile. I have said that if I were the mayor of a town, I would rather have 100 businesses with 60 employees than one business with 6,000. Because if you lose one of the 100, it's not so bad. If you lose the 6,000, it's very difficult. So that's why I believe in cultivating an entrepreneurial mindset. Believe it or not, it's really good to start at 4th grade, 3rd grade even will work. But becoming anti-fragile, not only as a region, but as a state. Here's the mission statement. I'm not going to read it to you, but do you see the word innovation in there anywhere? I do. We work to quality learning through effective and timely educational technology, student-centered support services, and emerging content delivery methods that support excellence in teaching and learning, value in training and workforce development, becoming lifelong learners. That sounds like innovation to me. Those aren't just words, but this sounds a lot like innovation. And making civic and cultural enrichment. I can tell you right now that there are community colleges and universities that would be, I guess the good word might be just dying to have this kind of facility on their place. This is so very unique that it's almost unheard of. This will draw folks and continues to draw folks. Sweet spot for innovation. This is actually from Tim Brown with IDEO. Not all innovation is good. So I'm going to give you a challenge. I actually know a person who worked at the only plant in the U.S. that makes Pringles potato chips. Does anybody know where that plant is located? It's Jackson, Tennessee. Did you know that Pringles only have seasoning on one side of them? I didn't either, but he was telling me. But in innovation, Pringles, how many brands of Pringles do you see in store? And is it an innovation or is it just a different flavor? So what is an innovation? For Tim Brown, it's something that is viable, not something that's fly by night, something's going to stand the test of time. Desirability, human. A lot of big movement now on human-centered design. Things that don't work, things that do work. What's happening is, instead of people saying, well, we're going to make this because I know people will buy it, not anymore. That's changed. The last thing is feasibility technical. I got to hear a NASA scientist a few years ago in Houston who said, we are going to Mars. Guess what? We're on Mars. Do you realize that there is now a planet in our solar system that is inhabited more with robot machines than with anything else? It's Mars. But he said the way we were going to get to Mars is you can't carry enough stuff with you to get to Mars. You can't do that. You're going to have to be innovative and think about, you've got to grow food, you've got to be able to recycle waste, you've got to make oxygen. What if a part breaks? You can't call up J.B. Cook and say, you know, I really need a new alternator up here. I'm just about halfway between the moon and Mars. They can't go. And once you're on the road, you're not going to get off. So he talked about fabricating our way to Mars. You can actually probably Google it and see it. But he said we will actually have to make things on the way to Mars to repair. That's innovation. 3D printing, a lot of things that are coming along. Robotics. I've heard people say that the way companies now can remain competitive is with robotics. There's going to be a big need to repair robotics, or robots. How about the need to repair electric vehicles? I was watching television a little bit last night, and I saw an electric vehicle. That's really cool. It had independent drives and just pulled into a parking lot. What happens when that drive shaft breaks? How does it get repaired? Is that something, just throwing it out, is that something UAHT needs to look at? Are we looking down the road for being able to repair vehicles like that? I don't know the answer. Innovation occurs when all three of these parts come together in this Venn diagram. So this is from the Darden School of Business, and this is their approach to design thinking. What is, what if, what wows, what works, and I'm going to add a fifth one, what's next. I promise you I did not pick this from the brochure I was handing this morning that talked about UHT, but the last page says what's next. I promise I didn't see that, but that's in there. But this is one approach. The D School out of Stanford uses a little bit of approach. It may look a little foreign, but it's what we've always done. You know, if you're going to sell something, if you're going to provide a service, you have to know where you are. Now here's what I'm going to make a promise to everybody in this room, what I'm not going to do. Is I'm not going to come in here and start suggesting solutions without knowing the right questions to ask, or making assumptions that I know what we should do. That causes me to climb Mount Stupid, and I don't want to go up there. In the what is phase, we journey map. Have you ever mapped how a student comes to register here? When they start, say, I want to go to UAHT. Have you ever mapped their journey from interest to applicant to student? That's an interesting thing to do. Value chain analysis. If you look at the lean canvas model, and if I ask you individually, tell me what the value-added proposition of UAHT is. What makes you value-added? I'll leave that with you. All right, in the what if, and then we go to brainstorming. That's an overused word a lot, but it will work if it's done correctly. Into what if, we develop our concept. Your interim chancellor, I know, has been working on the solar array, the solar power. So the concepts being developed, how we're going to do it, where we're going to put it, what wows we're going to do testing. I already heard that you're going to devote some of the time to powering the college, but a lot of times it's got to be devoted to students learning how to repair. We rapid prototype. There's not a mouse here, but the first mouse that developed for Apple was crummy. But they took, this is hard to believe, but they actually did. They took a roll-on deodorant stick and used that to start working on developing a prototype for the mouse. It's incredible to start off and cheap. So whether you're doing a service, maybe we're going to do a course. Rather than launch it full bore, maybe we offer it as a non-credit or career credit and kind of test the waters, see how things are going to look. And we get into, and we do all this by working with our potential users. There are three types of users. There's extreme users on both ends, and then there's most of us in the middle. I mean, have you ever used a screwdriver for something other than to tighten or loosen a screw? Have you ever used it to poke in the ground? You're probably one of the extreme users. But there are extreme users that use things in ways we may never have thought. What works? Custom co-creation, learning launch. Does it work? Have you tested it? Does it make sense? Do we need to redo the prototype? Oh, well, wait a minute, we forgot about this. We didn't know that was going to happen. So there are many different approaches, but this one I want to use because I'm going to start out using this. We do not start with solutions, we start with questions. So here's where we are. Arkansas First Solar Array Lab and Array. Tex America Center, Texas A&M Branch Solid Partner, Bladesmith School, Collegiate Academy, Texas Book Rental Program. That's a bellwether nominee. And that's incredible. New plant manufacturing pellets for barbecue in Hope, just signed to come in. Renovations in downtown Texarkana for apartments. Downtown space is becoming more vibrant. As part of empathy, we bring stakeholders together and we develop personas. Again, I know these are kind of rhetorical questions. What does the average, hate the word average, what does a typical UAH student, how do they look in terms of persona? Are they, I can answer, they're probably female, more female than male. Age, demographics. You look at what's the target group we're serving, how might we serve them better? We've had enrollment declines. Northwest Arkansas Community College is a large community college, and we were hit very hard. And I say that to tell you we have a certified retail analyst program that is the only one in the nation to the depth that this one is. You can come out of that program after 5 classes and go to work in the supplier community for Walmart because you will know retail link and understand how to pull data and merge data. And the starting pay is about $70,000 a year. It's a career credit. We've had PhDs, we've had attorneys come in here. Before COVID, I think we're going to say, it used to be for some of us, it was before 9/11, after 9/11, this will be before COVID and after COVID. Our retail analyst program was all paper. It was, when I journey mapped this for a student, there were, I think, 17 steps that it took to a student to get registered. It is a great program, but suddenly, we all went home. So we had to pivot, because every class was in a classroom. Every class was done this way. You actually get an ID that you can go into the Walmart computer system and pull data. So COVID hits. What happens? We all go home. What happens to the retail analyst program? enrollment grew by about 40%. It's like, oh, wow, what happened? Well, here's what happened. Because we could do it virtually and remote, and because most of the students have they have a degree or they have the skills, we now have students in California, Florida, and other parts of Arkansas, because we were not bound by sitting in a classroom. So it's a part of an innovation that occurred. Now it's a radical change, and we're going back to some seated classes, but when you think about it, we went from fully seated paper registrations to online, and enrollment's up about 40%. That's incredible. I noticed also there is some slight population declines in southwest Arkansas. Actually, if you take I-30 and draw a line, there's actually population decline south of I-30. But we're not out. It will come back. I thought about reskilling and upskilling. That's something we're hearing a lot. So I don't see Miss Israel here. Actually, I'd hope to see her because she and I are on Zoom calls with Arkansas Community College pretty often. So I've seen a lot of you. I just haven't met a lot of you. But what are business and industry saying we need? What are they telling you? And I'm saying these rhetorical questions, but we go to and ask people, how might we help? We are one college with one mission statement, with a couple of locations, but we are one college. Whether we're workforce, whether we're health professions, it doesn't matter. We are one college. What wows? We've got our data collected. We are going to be 3D printing our way to Mars. That's what's going to wow. We've got our journey maps created. We've moved from divergent to convergent thinking. And I like to call it the Shazam moment. Some people call it the aha moment, but let's think about cool words. It's like, aha. But think about Shazam. So here's your mind-puzzling question of the day. Does anybody know what the acronym Shazam stands for? I went to see the movie. Does anybody know what it means? And I'll tell you why I like it better than the aha moment. Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. So when Billy Batson says Shazam, he's imbued with the power of Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. He's got all these powers. For me, when we say we have the Shazam moment, it's all come together. We've got it. It's great for our students. It's great for our faculty. It's great for a reason. That's the Shazam moment. We start with low fidelity prototypes. We don't want to spend a whole lot of money. So fail. I have had a few things in my life that did not turn out as well as I had hoped for them. And I came across a definition of fail that I kind of like. First attempt in learning. I mean, I thought, okay, Tim, you haven't failed. This is your first attempt in learning. No. Anybody here got children that are 5 years old? They're always saying, why? And you're saying no. So now you know what no means to them. Next opportunity to ask you why. When they ask you why, say, I don't know. What do you think about it? Okay. The last part of it, we continue to refine our prototypes through co-creation with stakeholders. I'm really big on advisory boards, and by ADHE rules, you have to have an advisory board for every AAS program. But I think even if you have an AA or an AS program, you need advisory boards. I think you need to bring that element in from the community. It does two things. Number one, it brings them in to show them they're connected with you. The other thing is you can get some real cool ideas from what they can offer. But this is what wows. What works? Maybe I turn this into something that says what doesn't work. Okay. What works? We have a working prototype. We may have to refine our ideas. What we have may not exactly work, so we test, then we go back, and we test. But we're testing in a good way to make sure this is what is needed in the marketplace, and this is what students need. I mean, the mission statement here is student-driven with innovation, or that's my read of it. It's important to know why something didn't work. In talking to some folks today, I'm sure you get notice of how many students are coming in from the various public schools around. And a school maybe has 20% of their students come to UAHT, 40% go here, 30%. But if the numbers don't add to 100, my question always is, where's that last 10 or 20% going? I want to know why we're not able to reach them. Is there something we're not doing to help them? Because I stand before you today as a person who education made a difference in me. I told you I come from a long line of people in this part of the world. I am a first generation college graduate. In fact, we even have it on our name tags. I'm first generation. And Dr. Thompson, I'm a first lawyer. I don't think they like to talk about that. But the point is, I know what it's like to come through and wonder, am I going to make it? What am I going to do? I like the study groups. I like what we have here. But work through things to make sure that what we have works and what works for students, and that we can be feasible in doing it. Okay, I'm going to admit to you all, this is a play on words. How we help our students succeed at UAHT, we equip them to be lifelong learners. So if you've heard about the H-shaped person and the T-shaped person, this is what it is. We train them to have discipline, knowledge, and experience. On the H, that's the depth. But the cross piece is the ability to learn from these disciplines. About 2 years ago, 2.5, we decided that we wanted to combine some programs in a building. We wanted art on one side. We wanted construction, tech, and makerspace on the other side. And we wanted to call it the Integrated Design Lab. Now you say, well, art, construction, how does this work? Well, look around you. Because without good design and without good construction, this would not be here. So that's what we did to make them learners. So we've actually had students cross the hall, is what we call it, coming over. They built the tables. They have sculptures hanging. They're just jumping into doing things. And these are students who are in art working with students who've just come in from a job site. It's really cool. T-shaped person is a breadth of knowledge, depth of expertise. I'm probably seeing more talk now about the H person of having two ranges of depth. But anyway, those, again, that's kind of a play on words with H and T. This is what I think we should strive for with our students. But I also think about it for ourselves. that we should have depth and breadth. So here's what's next. We listen and use empathy, not sympathy, empathy. We ask questions. We ask more questions. We become the 5-year-old traveling in the car from here to California who has a lot of questions. We become a region of maker cities and towns. I am convinced that becoming a region of having fab labs, maker spaces, and places where people can tinker is absolutely vital in our new fourth industrial revolution. It's absolutely vital. It is happening all over the world. I would propose that we hook in with the Fab Lab network out of MIT, because once we have the Fab Charter, that means we can have the general public coming in, but also it means our students can connect with students in Denmark, Norway, Canada, and collaborate together. I call it being able to travel abroad and never leave home, because you can collaborate this way. It's very safe. We define ourselves, what we are, and we can and will be. We use decision-driven data analysis, analytics to make decisions. If I am anything, I'm a planner. I kind of drive my spouse a little bit crazy at planning, but I plan, and in here I do not want to ever risk the college resources in a way that we don't have decisions and data to back up what we're doing. Just because I think that everybody should be able to do X, Y, or Z doesn't mean that everybody wants to. So that's why I love advisory boards. We use these decision-driven data analytics to make decisions. We instill an entrepreneurial mindset, K to gray. What I mean to K to gray is from kindergarten to this, gray. Children are born entrepreneurs. A few years ago, I approached the principal at Elmdale Elementary School in Springdale, Arkansas, about doing a project I called E to the third power, Elmdale Elementary Entrepreneurship. The school is about 95% poverty. It's about maybe 75% Latinx. But I'm telling you, these students are some of the most entrepreneurial you'll ever meet. So what we do is I have curriculum. They start in the fall. They divide up into teams after school, and we're competing against Girls on the Run. I thought, we won't get anybody. Most of the students in there, we only have 20 to 24, most of them are female. They have to go through Lean Canvas model, 9 steps in Lean Canvas. They watch Shark Tank. Who would have ever thought a 10-year-old child would love Shark Tank? It's like, really? They love Shark Tank. We make them and then in the late fall, they've done their projects and our service learning students are working with them. They have to build a prototype, and then they have to go before the sharks. We have bankers, we have people from all over Northwest Arkansas, normally about 20 of them come in, and these 4th graders, these are 10-year-old, mostly females, pitch to the sharks to get money, because they want to borrow money to make their products, because anything they sell above cost they get to keep. Now, I'm going to share with you a secret about the Shark Tank. I'm the only shark. The others are just there to hear them. I'm the shark with the money. I had 3 young men, and this is, again, we have to be careful with stereotyping. They said, we think we're going to make bracelets. I thought, that sounds pretty cool. So they borrowed $60. I think they made $160. Imagine you're 10 years old and suddenly you got about $35 you made over one day sale. That's pretty good. We bring them on our campus so they can sell their products. And the other thing that's important to note about a 10-year-old, free Lay's potato chips from the college bookstore taste better than Lay's potato chips from anywhere else in the world. They want to buy them. What we're doing is not only helping them develop this mindset, but we're also, through our service learning students, saying to them, you can come to college. You can be a part of college. They did it, and you can do it. It's been really, really fun. We develop more public-private partnerships for upskilling, reskilling to develop our workforce. We can do that now. Work with the local industries. So we attract people to our area by showing them the quality of life in our region. The phrase I like to use, if you can work from anywhere, why not work from here, right? Why would you want to live in New York City when you can live here? Young married couple across the street from us, he works as a data analyst for ArcBest. She works as an RN. He said he had a friend that lives in San Francisco, and he told me what he was making by the time he pays his rent, utilities, groceries, and everything, he's got very few dollars left. He could work remote from somewhere else and have money, but he will not leave. I don't know. We make this region of Arkansas a value-added proposition to companies who want to come to our region. One of the things I've been thinking about was, what if we create a consortium of community college, like at Casatot, bring in South Ark and us, form sort of a regional consortium, because collectively we're smarter than we are individually. And we're able then to leverage our resources, because maybe South Ark is doing something we can't or don't want to do. Maybe we're doing something that Casatot does not want to do or cannot do. But together, if we could say, okay, well, let's do this. It fits your demographic. If your students want to come here to do that, make it a hybrid class. But those are just some of my ideas. The final thing, these precepts become our vision and not my vision alone. I will repeat, I would not come to UAHT. I don't have a bunch of notes written down that, if I get the job, we're going to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I know this will work down there because I went back and spent a whole day there, so I know it'll work, right? Don't believe that. The thing that I would do is come back and ask questions. What can we do? I would use the 5 steps, but it's not a matter of, my vision is saying, let's look at these things, but I can't come here and tell you that what we're doing at Northwest Arkansas Community College fits here. We're about to launch a bike technician repair program in August. It's really cool. We were contacted by the Bike Association to run this program. It makes sense up there. I've got a building we can use. Would it make sense here? I don't know. But what I wouldn't do is come in, and you all have heard this phrase is, well, when I was at so-and-so, this is the way we did it. My thought is, tell me how you do it. Do you see steps to improve what we're doing? Maybe there are none, but how can we keep constantly improving what we're doing? I got a couple more slides. This is death by PowerPoint, but I promise I'll revive you on the last one. So, I thought about this. I'd already sent this in. Instead of let's innovate, let's continue to innovate. And I'm going to read this. We must recognize that innovation, diversity of ideas, and I've been asked about that, that's cognitive diversity. And new concepts don't need to be imported into rural communities. They're already here. Folks, we've been innovating forever. If your watermelon crop dies, you do something else. You plant purple whole peas, right? We have done this. Rural entrepreneurs and community leaders have always, by necessity, been innovative. Rural America is not just here. I've got friends in Iowa and Kansas, and it's just basically farming. And it's like, how do we help? What do we do? So I think the better title is, let's continue to innovate. Solar arrays, collegiate academies. I see some possible large growth areas for both campuses. I see some partnerships developing. I see some use of both downtown areas into markets. I see a lot of things it could be, but they need to be fleshed out. They need to be explored, and not just from me, but from all of us. Innovation, in my opinion, is driven by the needs of the region and the community you serve, not by what's going on in San Francisco. It's an excellent book out that talks about the difference between what happened in Silicon Valley and what happened on Route 128. Route 128 is the part through Boston and all, and why Silicon Valley became this hub of innovation. And yet you have at least two large research universities in New England that kind of innovation didn't happen. There's a reason for it. It was a spirit of collaboration and not siloed up. You don't have that here. But that was my point of talking about community colleges coming together and saying, how might we make it so students can move here and there? And whether you live in Genoa or Falk or Prescott, it doesn't matter. How can we make this so that you can have a quality of life? About 3 years ago, the president of the Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce came to me, and I've known Steve Clark a really long time, knew when he was Attorney General, and he said, I got an idea, let's have a FANUC training center here. I said, are you talking about on our campus? He said, no, at the Fayetteville Chamber. I was like, really? Okay. And he said, I've got us a trip booked. We're going with somebody from Multicraft. We're going to fly to Detroit. And Detroit was really bad at that time. I did not look forward to that. We went to Detroit. We went to FANUC. We went to ABB Robotics. Came back. He wrote a grant. And so we have the very first robotics training center sponsored by a Chamber of Commerce and partnered with NWAC. And based upon what I heard, because we were able to secure a grant, we have trained 120 area high school students. We have the largest number of FANUC-trained robotics technicians in the state of Arkansas. That's pretty cool. That's what, we looked at what is, now what's next? Just got a new robot, moving on into vision and other things. Is that needed here? I don't know. I know that folks from Tyson Foods said to me, we do not need programmers. We need people that repair robots, and they're paying very well for that. Is that our next what's next? I don't know the answer to that. You're innovative. Don't ever let anyone tell you you're not. You're important as much as any place in the state of Arkansas. So last slide. So I have a car and I commute a lot. So I was going in once a month for an oil change. When we went to COVID, when I finally went in for an oil change, the guys at the oil changer looked really strange. And I thought, what's wrong? And they said, well, we thought you may have. I said, I didn't die. I'm just not commuting as much. Oh, okay. But this is actually on their wall. This is probably what we don't want, crazy innovation. And I don't know if going into a place where you get your oil changed or car repaired, if this is the best sign to have, but I still thought it was kind of cool. It's been a great day. It's been fun. I've got to meet a lot of folks I haven't seen in a long time. I've seen them, but a lot of them have been with masks, so I haven't seen them. Folks, you have a great school here. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible. We can ideate and move forward. So, Interim Chancellor Laura, thank you for everything. Dr. Bobbitt, thank you.
I want to see if there's any questions.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's open it up first to questions from the audience. We have a couple of mics. John? Okay.
It was getting awful quiet there for a second. With your background and your experience, what all do you feel that you can offer the college should you get accepted?
Yeah, if you could come out to the mic.
Dave, you know sometimes you try things and they don't work. You know sometimes that what you think will work won't work, but you try not to get in any trouble. What I think my background is, and what Dave, I've learned a lot. Mark Twain said I think he was 16, said he thought his father was the most ignorant man on earth, but when he got 23, it was amazing how much the old man had learned. So I think I've learned a lot in 14 years, especially in the higher ed world, of what we need to do and what we must be careful about, especially being our fiduciary relationship with the taxpayers and students. I bring a questioning attitude, not questioning in a bad way with no, questioning with a sense of, it's called, actually, if you look at it, and it's kind of like improv, it's called yes and, yes but. And Dave, if we had time, I would show you how to do it. The basic premise is somebody wants to do a birthday party for somebody. So you say yes, and she really likes something, and you say, oh, what about this yes and? But when you flip it and say yes, but she really doesn't eat cake, but she really doesn't, it deflates down the conversation, and you've suddenly just lost the person. I think I know how to not do yes, but yes and. And not argue from my points, look at it holistically. It's a shared leadership model.
Dr. Cornelius, could you explain your experience working with the state legislature, knowledge of state funding, and state appropriations?
Well, those are all three fun things. I did look at your appropriation bill. I was interested to see how that was going. I have worked a lot peripherally with our legislature because there are certain things we wanted to be able to accomplish. We had, and some of you may know Jim Hall. Chris, I think Jim Hall retired, but we worked through him. We got copies of the bills and we worked through them. Performance funding I'm not sure, because I don't know if we're going to be released from some things. I think, I know that here, because this is part of a system, it's not one person. We have one person now because we are not part of a system that actually works on with the legislature and reports every week. You have a system here who has more capabilities than we do, but the funding part, you know, I know Dr. Bobbitt's heard this, but NWAC is the lowest funded per student community college in the state of Arkansas. Now, don't ever, it is what it is, but we have a millage, and then we have student tuition, but student tuition is about 52% of our budget. So yeah, we look at this, and when there's a bill or something that adversely affects us, you know, we get on the horn. I don't know, with the state revenue being up, I don't know how we can get cuts, but I don't know. It looked like your appropriation bill looks pretty good, as far as I can see. Now, there may be something that I'm missing in there, but it looks pretty good. But, you know, my thing would be to working within the system and saying this bill could adversely affect, especially rural community colleges.
Dr. Cornelius. We have a lot of partners, existing partners, and we have a lot of potential partners in the two communities in the large region that we serve. I would like for you to list 5 to 8 strategic meetings that you would set up in the first 30 days to assess the situation with both of our campuses and where your future efforts would go immediately.
Well, that's interesting. You should ask me that question, because one of the first meetings I would have would be with you, because I would want to know, Anna, how might I help you, you know, be more successful. But I want to know your existing contacts. You know, who you have. I'm sure you have a database and all that. Look through there, ponder out, and say, if we're looking at highest priority, where do we think we can go? Where's, you know, I hate to say the low-hanging fruit, but that's probably close. And then set that up so that and I always like to highlight students is, here's what we're doing. This student, like I heard this morning in the student group, I asked the students to give me their name and tell me something about them that they wouldn't, otherwise people might not know, and things that they could tell me. So I learned that one likes chess, one likes sports, one likes math. One likes math. Have you ever heard one likes math? I haven't. But what it would do is sit down the first 30 days and let's look and see the what is part. The what is, where are we? And then say, okay, so what kind of, and you know, I'd ask for your help and others. Then how do we plan the strategy for looking at where do we need to go and just see? I don't want to promise you something that we couldn't do, and I don't want to sound vague, but I really want to know the lay of the land. If you ask me in Northwest Arkansas, I can give you the answers because I know the landscape up there, have done it for 13 years. I don't know the landscape as well here, so I've got a bit of a learning curve. So I would probably ask you a whole lot of questions, and eventually you would say, why not? Because I'd keep asking why. The 5 whys till we get to something. But one of the first things I would like to do, and I see we have Hope Schools, I would like to meet with each and every superintendent of each and every school district within my first 30 to 45 days. That would be a real priority. I would also like to meet with the president of Texarkana College, with the president of Texas A&M, but those are the kind of folks. But I want every superintendent. We're going to do the how are you? Good to see you. I want to meet with you. Now tell me how might UAHT work to help serve your students better. So yeah, students or school superintendents are, I won't say first on the list because I would want to get to know all of you, but they're about second or third. I do that now and work with them. Mostly a lot of with CTE directors, but I want to get the bond more closely aligned with students, especially the rural areas. I won't forget Hope or Texarkana, but we're all one college and one equal. So, Anna, that's my answer to your question.
I suspect you've already had an opportunity to meet with our academic division chairs. I'd be curious about your impression for their needs and wants or desires, possible programs or program changes, or did you get enough of a feel for some of that to talk to it yet?
Dave, I know a little bit about stuff. I looked at the degree programs. I looked on the website. We're doing the AAS in general technology. I see that here. One of the things I didn't see, and one of the things we've used is we've used a 2+2 or in reverse transfer articulation. Don't call it many different names of UA Fort Smith, because we have a lot of AAS graduates, and it's very difficult for them to move on to an in-state school. So I've worked a lot with them, and because they accept the AAS and business, a lot of different things, even our Brightwater Culinary, they accept. So that was one of the things I want to look at. As far as programs, Dave, I'd like to go out into the community and just say, what do you see we need? Talk to employers. We do that now. You know, tell us where the gaps are in learning. What do we need to do? That's how we got the Amazon Web Services. It's because there's such a gap between cloud and not cloud, and how do we do this? So that's why the program, we didn't do it just to be the first. I will tell you, we did it after doing the decision based upon our data-driven analysis. That's what we did. But no, I really mean 30, 40 minutes, you know, it's really not a lot of time. But that's something to delve into in the first, 30 days and lay out some strategy maps on it.
Hi, Tim. It's been a long time. I'm Catherine Cook, still here.
Catherine, how are you? Good to see you.
I was going to say that one of the things that has been changing about the Hope community the last 4 or 5 years, and I think you highlighted it somewhat in one of your slides, is we're really, with our ideas about downtown, are starting to reach some critical mass. Do you see some opportunities for further partnerships with the Hope community and the college in terms of the downtown area?
So I'm going to go by and see Becky Moore in the morning. I'm going to tell you, I'm bringing Becky some bread from Harvest Moon Bakery. Now, I know you don't know what Harvest Moon Bakery is, but Harvest Moon Bakery is a family-owned bakery that started in Fort Smith about 2 years ago. I walked into Harvest Moon Bakery, which had been owned by somebody else, and I walked in and looked at the array of their products, and I thought, I'm not sure if they're going to make it in Fort Smith, because I go in and it looks like a boulangerie in Paris, France, with croissants and macarons. There's macaroons, which are coconut, macarons, which are made from almond flour, and then there's Macron, the president of France. So people told me that the difference. And I go in, and here is authentic rye bread, sourdough bread, all these kind of things. Catherine, I wasn't sure they were going to make it. So I asked them, I've been working with them. I said, how's business during COVID? Can anybody venture a guess how their business is? It's up 25% in a pandemic, and selling bread and croissants and halos. They don't make donuts. They take croissant dough and cut it with a hole in it and call it halos. But again, they were so unique. So when I talk to Becky, I think about, what about holiday markets? What about getting kids involved, making things? What about a maker movement? What about a wood turning group? I mean, there's some big ones up in Northwest Arkansas. We got wood down here. Other partnerships, things like the bakery, when I tell you if you can work from anywhere, why not work from here? But we have to be attractive to a certain demographic of people that want to come and want to be part of a vibrant downtown. I see some deserted buildings. Guess what it looks like to me? Looks like an opportunity for a co-working space. I was thinking about the old Southern Ice House down across from what was a Dairy Queen. I could see that becoming a maker space for the community in there. 2 or 3 3D printers and something like that. I see all sorts of things downtown in some of those buildings. Gosh, you could put some 3D printers, have Girls Garage, Maker Girl. I mean, there's a whole lot that can be done. So I'm anxious to talk with her tomorrow, and she's going to get a loaf of Harvest Moon bread. Told her I'm not sure if I'll make it till tomorrow with it, but we'll try. Remember, Bentonville was a small, sleepy town. Remember, Hewlett-Packard started in a garage. It's all here, Catherine. It's all here to move forward. It really is. We'll just spark it up or get the iron horses going.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Are there any questions that could come through the presentation? No? Okay. All right, seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate that. We'll have our next candidate will be at the same time tomorrow afternoon.